Isaac's body ached as he sat up from the wreckage. The gray sky overhead stretched endlessly, heavy with clouds of ash. His throat was dry, his stomach cramped from hunger, but he was alive. Somehow. He stood slowly, brushing dust from his clothes, and took in the ruined cityscape. Tall spires once rose from this place, gleaming with promise. Now they were shattered husks. The only sound was the faint whistle of wind through the broken buildings. Isaac's mind raced with questions. Why had the alien bombardment left the spot relatively intact? And more pressing, was he the only one left? He picked his way through the rubble, scanning the horizon. Every step felt uncertain, his boots crunching on shards of glass and charred stone. The city's skeletal remains seemed to close in around him. But then, a noise caught his attention. Something subtle, a scrape of metal against stone. "Hello?" Isaac called, his voice hoarse and tentative. He wasn't sure he wanted an answer. But as he rounded a corner, he saw another figure emerge from behind a crumbled wall. The man looked as battered as Isaac felt. His dark hair was matted, his clothes torn and smeared with dirt. In his hands, he gripped a makeshift spear, its tip sharpened metal lashed to a length of pipe. He regarded Isaac cautiously, his green eyes narrowing. "Who are you?" the man demanded, his voice rough but strong. "Isaac," he replied, raising his hands to show he wasn't a threat. I thought I was the only one left." The man didn't lower his weapon immediately. "Prove it," he said. "Where are you from?" Isaac hesitated, then pointed toward the north. "Second Ward, near the old manufacturing district. I worked maintenance mostly." "You?" The man's stance softened slightly. "I was stationed at the southern docks," he said. "Logistics officer. Name's Gabriel." "Gabriel," Isaac repeated, relief washing over him. "I'm glad to see someone else made it." Gabriel glanced around, his expression grim. "Not many of us did. The Hraggith hit us hard. I've been scavenging supplies, trying to figure out what's left. But it's just me out here." "Not anymore," Isaac said. "I've got some survival experience. We'll be better off together." Gabriel looked him over once more, then nodded. "All right, Isaac. Let's see what you're made of. Come on." As they moved through the ruins together, Gabriel led the way, his spear at the ready. Isaac followed close behind, keeping an eye on the shifting shadows and the distant hum of alien patrols. It was clear Gabriel knew his way around the rubble. He pointed out spots to avoid, weak structures that could collapse without warning. "So what have you been living on?" Isaac asked after a stretch of silence. "Found an old ration stash under what used to be the armory," Gabriel said. "Not much left now." "You?" "Scraps," Isaac admitted. "The automated food dispensers are either empty or destroyed." Gabriel grunted. "Figures. They hit our supply chains first." Always the smart play. They stopped near a collapsed building where Gabriel motioned Isaac over. "I need a second pair of hands," he said. "Help me lift this beam. There's a cache underneath if it hasn't been looted yet." Together, they braced against the fallen steel and heaved it aside. Beneath, a small compartment revealed a few intact packages of rations and a first aid kit. "Not bad," Gabriel muttered, grabbing the supplies. He handed Isaac one of the ration packs. "Here. You'll need it." Isaac accepted it with a nod of thanks. "You think there's more out here?" "Could be," Gabriel said. "But the patrols are getting more frequent. We have to be careful. If they find us." Isaac didn't need him to finish the thought. The Hraggith weren't known for mercy. "What's the plan then?" Gabriel leaned on his makeshift spear, looking thoughtful. "For now, we stay alive. Keep moving, find what we can. If we're lucky, we might pick up a signal from any other survivors. Maybe even figure out why we were left behind." Isaac nodded. "Sounds better than wandering around alone." The day wore on as they continued to scavenge. Isaac noticed the subtle ways Gabriel watched his back and how quickly he responded to any sound or movement. It was reassuring in a way. For the first time since the attack, Isaac didn't feel completely helpless. As they made camp in the shell of an old warehouse, Gabriel finally broke the silence. "So why do you think we survived, Isaac? Everyone else, gone? But not us." Isaac stared into the small fire they'd managed to build. "I don't know," he said quietly. "Maybe we're just lucky. Or unlucky, depending on how you look at it." Gabriel chuckled dryly. "Yeah, guess that's one way to see it." They sat in silence for a while, the flames casting flickering shadows on the walls. For the first time in weeks, Isaac felt a faint sense of safety. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep going. And maybe, just maybe, they'd find a way to survive together. As the sun rose sluggishly over the battered cityscape, Isaac and Gabriel set off in search of anything that could help them piece together the broken puzzle of their world. The ruins offered little hope. Gnarled beams and collapsed walls jutted like bones from the earth, and the faint hum of distant alien patrols kept them on edge. Still, they moved with purpose. Together. Do you know where we're going? Isaac asked, sidestepping a crater filled with stagnant water. His voice carried a blend of curiosity and skepticism, not quite challenging Gabriel's leadership but not entirely convinced either. Gabriel, walking a few paces ahead, glanced back over his shoulder. There's a structure on the west end of the city, he said. An old communications hub. If we can get it running, we might find out if anyone else is out there. Isaac raised an eyebrow. You're sure it's still intact? No, Gabriel admitted. But sitting in one spot isn't going to get us anywhere. Isaac sighed. Fair enough. The two men continued in silence for a while, their footsteps crunching over rubble and shattered glass. Occasionally, Gabriel would hold up a hand, signaling Isaac to stop. They'd crouch, listening intently as the faint sound of alien machinery passed overhead. Only when the noise faded did they move again. What were you before this? Isaac asked after one such pause. His question wasn't just idle chatter, he was genuinely curious. The man leading him through the ruins carried himself with the kind of confidence that suggested experience, not just survival instinct. Military logistics, Gabriel replied. I wasn't on the front lines, but I worked closely with the units stationed here. I knew what they needed, where to get it, and how to keep it coming. That was my job. Isaac nodded. Sounds useful. It was, Gabriel said, though his tone carried a hint of bitterness. Right up until it wasn't. They rounded a corner, and Gabriel gestured for Isaac to stop. He pointed toward a squat, windowless building in the distance. That's it. Isaac squinted. The structure didn't look like much, just another crumbling shell of the city's former glory. But Gabriel's confidence was enough to keep him moving. Together, they approached the building cautiously, scanning for any signs of Hragath patrols. When they reached the entrance, Gabriel tested the door. It was stuck, the metal warped and bent. He motioned for Isaac to help. Grab the edge and pull, he said. Isaac positioned himself beside Gabriel, and together they heaved. The door groaned in protest, then finally gave way, clattering to the ground with a hollow clang. Dust swirled in the air, making them both cough. Inside, the air was cooler and carried a faint metallic scent. The walls were lined with defunct monitors, their screens cracked and blank. Gabriel scanned the room, his eyes landing on a console near the back. He motioned for Isaac to follow. This is the main control panel, Gabriel said. If it still has power, we can try to access the system. Isaac glanced around, noting the exposed wiring and debris scattered across the floor. Do you think it's safe? Only one way to find out, Gabriel replied. He reached down and flipped a few switches on the console. Nothing happened. He frowned, then moved to another panel, tracing the wires with practiced hands. Do you know what you're doing? Isaac asked. More or less, Gabriel said, not looking up. I've worked with systems like this before. They're all built on the same basic principles. If I can find the power supply, we might have a shot. Isaac wasn't entirely reassured, but he didn't argue. Instead, he started clearing away some of the debris, making room for Gabriel to work. They fell into a rhythm, their movements coordinated as they pulled out damaged circuits, reconnected loose wires, and scavenged usable parts from the other consoles. After what felt like hours, Gabriel wiped sweat from his brow and stepped back. All right, I think that should do it. Let's try again. Isaac hovered near the console as Gabriel flipped the switches once more. This time, there was a flicker of light. A hum resonated through the room, and one of the screens came to life, displaying lines of alien text. You did it, Isaac said, a hint of awe in his voice. Not yet, Gabriel replied. We'll see if it still functions. He began navigating the console's interface, his fingers moving quickly over the buttons. Isaac watched in silence, unsure if he could be of any help at this stage. After a few tense moments, Gabriel leaned back and exhaled. There's a lot of damage, he said, but it's working. I can access some of the old network. Can you find anything about survivors? Isaac asked. Gabriel shook his head. Not yet. I'll need time to dig through what's here. Most of it's encrypted and some of the data is corrupted. But it's a start. Isaac nodded. Better than nothing. Gabriel looked over at him. Why don't you keep an eye on the entrance while I work on this? We don't want any unwelcome visitors. Isaac agreed and positioned himself near the door. As he stood there, he realized that despite the devastation, the loneliness he'd felt just days ago had lessened. Gabriel's presence, his skill, and his determination gave Isaac something he hadn't had since the attack, a reason to believe that they could figure this out. Together, the faint buzz of the console filled the room. Gabriel worked methodically, his fingers deftly maneuvering through the interface, muttering under his breath. Isaac had taken up his post by the door, standing guard as best he could. The silence between them was tense, not with hostility, but with the unspoken weight of everything they both lost. Isaac, Gabriel said without looking away from the screen. You've got any experience with electronics? Not much, Isaac admitted. Maintenance, mostly. I can patch a broken pipe or rewire a power junction, but I've never worked on something like that. Gabriel grunted. Figures. I could use another set of eyes on this. The system scrambled, too many corrupted files. I can't tell if it's hiding a signal or if there's just nothing left out there. Isaac stepped closer, peering over Gabriel's shoulder. What are you looking for exactly? Anything. A distress beacon, a supply route map, even just proof that someone else survived. Gabriel paused, then glanced at Isaac. But I need a hand sorting through the mess. Think you can manage that? Isaac hesitated, then nodded. Sure. What do you need me to do? Start with these logs, Gabriel said, gesturing at a column of garbled characters. Look for anything that doesn't match the rest. Even a stray number or symbol could mean something's hidden underneath. Isaac slid into the chair next to Gabriel, his eyes scanning the console's display. He wasn't sure how much help he'd be, but he wasn't about to sit idle. As his fingers hovered over the keys, he asked, So what's your plan if we find something? Depends on what it is, Gabriel said. If it's a distress call, we respond. If it's a map, we move. If it's nothing, we keep looking. Isaac frowned. And if it's a Hraggith signal? Something hostile. Gabriel's jaw tightened. Then we move fast and get out of here before they come looking for us. The hours dragged on as they worked side by side. Gabriel's determination was palpable, his focus unwavering. Isaac followed his lead, learning the system's quirks and gradually spotting patterns in the corrupted data. They didn't talk much, just enough to clarify instructions or share findings. Their dialogue wasn't just a means of communication, it was the foundation of a fragile partnership. Eventually, Isaac broke the silence. Gabriel, do you ever think about what happens after all this? I mean, if we find other survivors, what's next? Gabriel didn't answer right away. His fingers continued to move across the console, but his expression grew distant. Finally, he said, surviving isn't enough. We need a goal, something to rebuild toward. Maybe that's what we figure out if we find others. Until then, we keep going. Isaac nodded slowly. Makes sense. I guess I just can't help thinking about how much has changed. A few weeks ago, I was worried about meeting repair deadlines. Now I'm combing through alien data logs for scraps of hope. Gabriel's lips twitched in a faint smile. Life comes at you fast. Isaac chuckled softly, then leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. All right, I think I've got something here. It's not much, just a fragment of coordinates. Could be nothing, but it's different from the rest of the data. Gabriel leaned in, his eyes narrowing as he examined the screen. Good find. Let me cross-reference it with the maps we have. As Gabriel worked, Isaac stretched his legs and wandered toward the door. He couldn't shake the unease that came with staying in one place for too long. We've been here a while, he said. You think it's safe? Safe enough, Gabriel replied, not looking up. But we'll move soon. Just let me there. Got it. These coordinates match a relay station south of here. Could be where the Hraggith troops originated. Could be something else entirely. Isaac returned to Gabriel's side. You want to check it out? Gabriel nodded. If it's a Hraggith post, we'll be careful. If it's abandoned, we might find supplies or even more data. Either way, it's our next move. Isaac took a deep breath. All right, let's do it. As they packed their few belongings and prepared to leave, Isaac couldn't help but feel a strange sense of camaraderie with Gabriel. The man was a pragmatist, focused, and resourceful. Isaac might not have the same experience, but he was determined to pull his weight. Their partnership wasn't built on trust yet, not fully. But it was built on necessity, and for now, that was enough. Isaac glanced at the coordinates glowing on Gabriel's portable console. They weren't far, maybe a day's hike if they kept a steady pace. The tension between the two men was subdued but palpable. Gabriel's confidence and experience guided their steps, but Isaac's cautious optimism began to fill in the gaps. Together, they walked through the shattered remains of the city's outskirts, their survival now dependent on each other's strengths. How much farther? Isaac asked, squinting at the ruins ahead. The air here was thicker, heavier with the smell of burnt metal and ash. Another few clicks, Gabriel said without slowing his stride. You still good to keep going? Yeah, Isaac replied, adjusting the pack on his shoulders. Just the place we're headed. You think it's abandoned? Gabriel smirked faintly. If it's not, we'll figure it out. You ever handle yourself in a fight? Not exactly, Isaac admitted. I've done some self-defense training, but I'm not a soldier. Gabriel nodded. Fair enough. Stick close to me. If it comes down to it, I'll handle the rough stuff. They walked on in silence for a while, the crunch of rubble beneath their boots the only sound. The silence was occasionally broken by Gabriel's observations about their surroundings, where the infrastructure had failed, which structures might still be stable, and what to avoid. Isaac found himself grateful for the guidance. Gabriel clearly had a plan, or at least the ability to think several steps ahead. In a world that no longer made sense, that was something to hold onto. "What did you do before all this?" Gabriel asked suddenly, catching Isaac off guard. Isaac thought for a moment. "Maintenance technician. I kept the city's automated systems running, power grids, water supplies, stuff like that. Nothing glamorous." Gabriel chuckled. "Not glamorous, but useful. I bet you could rig something up if we found the right materials." "Probably," Isaac said. "If we had a stable power source and some intact wiring, I could at least set up a working comm relay." Gabriel looked impressed. "Good to know. Might need that sooner than later." They crested a hill and caught their first glimpse of the relay station. The structure was built into the side of a rocky outcrop, its antenna towers still standing though visibly damaged. The main building's walls were scorched and parts of the roof had caved in. Gabriel raised a hand, signaling Isaac to stop. "Wait here," he said, scanning the area with binoculars. "I don't see any movement. Could be abandoned, but let's be sure." Isaac nodded, crouching behind a pile of rubble as Gabriel moved forward. Watching the man work, Isaac felt a pang of admiration. Gabriel's movements were precise and deliberate. He didn't rush, didn't take unnecessary risks. It wasn't just survival, it was a craft. After several tense minutes, Gabriel waved him over. "Looks clear." Isaac hurried to join him, stepping carefully over the cracked ground. The interior of the relay station was dark and smelled of oil and charred metal. Gabriel's flashlight swept over walls pockmarked with blast scars. The consoles lining the room were powered down, their screens blank. "What's the plan?" Isaac asked, his voice echoing slightly in the empty space. "We'll see if we can get the systems running," Gabriel said, already moving toward the nearest console. "You said you know your way around power grids?" "More or less," Isaac said, pulling out a multi-tool from his pack. "Let me take a look at the wiring." Together, they pried open a panel and assessed the damage. Wires were fused, circuits melted. Isaac shook his head. "This is bad. I don't think we'll be able to bring the whole station online, but I might be able to rig a temporary connection to that antenna." Gabriel nodded. "Do it. I'll keep watch." While Isaac worked, Gabriel patrolled the perimeter, keeping an ear out for any sounds of approaching patrols. Isaac concentrated on stripping damaged wiring, reconnecting what he could, and bypassing the worst of the blown circuits. He muttered to himself as he worked, occasionally calling out to Gabriel for a hand. "Hand me that spool of cable," Isaac said, pointing to a corner of the room. Gabriel tossed it to him. "How's it looking?" "Not great," Isaac admitted, sweat beading on his brow. "But if I can get this antenna connected to the backup module, we might get a signal." "You sure?" Gabriel asked. "No," Isaac said, flashing a faint smile. "But it's worth a shot." Gabriel chuckled. "Fair enough. Let me know when you're ready to try it." After what felt like hours, Isaac wiped his hands on his pants and took a step back. "Okay," he said. "I think I've got it. Try powering it on." Gabriel flipped a few. "Let across the screen." "You did it," Gabriel said, a note of surprise in his voice. "Don't celebrate yet," Isaac said. "It's not stable. I just need enough time to pull any data we can before it shorts out again." Gabriel clapped him on the shoulder. "Good work, Isaac. I'll keep watch. Let's see what we've got." As Isaac began sorting through the system's logs, Gabriel moved to the doorway, his spear at the ready. Together, they had turned a relic of the past into a potential lifeline. Isaac couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. He hadn't just survived, he'd contributed. And as Gabriel stood guard, Isaac realized they were no longer just two individuals trying to make it through another day. They were a team. Gabriel watched the screen flicker as Isaac worked. The alien symbols were unintelligible to him, but Isaac seemed to understand at least part of what he was seeing. "I think I've got a lead," Isaac said after a while, his voice tight with concentration. "There's a reference to another outpost northeast of here. It might still be intact." Gabriel nodded. "Good. But what's at that outpost? Supplies? Another relay?" "Not sure," Isaac admitted. "The data's fragmented. It could be a storage facility or it could be a trap. I can't tell from this." Gabriel folded his arms. "Then we approach cautiously. If it's empty, we take what we can. If not, we decide on the spot." Isaac frowned at the screen. "There's one more thing, there's a timestamp on this log. It's not from before the attack. It's recent." Gabriel's expression hardened. "Recent? How recent?" "Within the last 2 weeks," Isaac said. "Someone's been using this relay." "Someone or something," Gabriel said quietly. He shifted his weight, glancing toward the doorway. If it's Hragath, we need to be ready. Agreed, Isaac said. He powered down the console, carefully removing a data chip he'd managed to extract from the damaged system. I've got the coordinates. It's our best lead. Gabriel slung his pack over his shoulder and gripped his spear tightly. Let's move. The journey to the northeast outpost was slow and deliberate. Gabriel led the way, constantly scanning the terrain. Isaac followed, occasionally glancing at the coordinates on the data chip to ensure they were on the right path. The landscape was harsher here, open plains scattered with jagged rocks and deep fissures that hinted at the violence that had torn the planet apart. You think anyone else made it out? Isaac asked, breaking the silence as they hiked. Maybe, Gabriel said. But if they did, they're probably hiding. Same as us. Isaac nodded. I just keep thinking there's got to be more people out there. We can't be the only ones left. We might be the only ones who aren't captured, Gabriel said bluntly. That's why we stay alert. Hours passed and the sun dipped low in the sky. As they crested a ridge, the outpost came into view. It was smaller than they expected. A single domed structure surrounded by a crumbled wall. There was no sign of movement. Looks abandoned, Isaac said. Maybe, Gabriel replied. But we check it thoroughly. No surprises. They approached cautiously, keeping low and sticking to the shadows. Gabriel reached the perimeter first, motioning for Isaac to stay back. He scanned the area, his spear held at the ready. After a tense minute, he waved Isaac forward. Inside the dome, the air was cool and stale. The room was mostly empty, save for a few scattered crates and another console that appeared to be in better condition than the one at the relay station. This might be what we need, Isaac said, moving to the console. He began tapping at the controls. Give me a few minutes to see if it's operational. Gabriel nodded and started searching through the crates. He opened one and pulled out a sealed container of rations. Looks like someone left in a hurry, he said. These are still good. That's a lucky break, Isaac muttered as he worked. If we can just find. He stopped suddenly, his fingers frozen over the controls. Gabriel turned to see him staring at the screen, his face pale. What is it? Gabriel asked, stepping closer. This system. It's active, Isaac said, his voice low. And it's broadcasting. Gabriel stiffened. Broadcasting what? To who? I don't know, Isaac said. But it's not just a signal. There's a message. Text. In their language. Gabriel frowned. Can you translate it? Not fully, Isaac admitted. But it's definitely Hragath. And from what little I can read, it's instructions. For a patrol route. Gabriel's grip tightened on his spear. Then we need to leave. Now. Isaac nodded and quickly removed the data chip. As he turned to pack up, Gabriel's head snapped toward the entrance. Something's coming, Gabriel said. Get ready. Isaac grabbed a wrench from a nearby crate, holding it tightly as he joined Gabriel near the doorway. The sound of footsteps echoed outside. Steady, deliberate. Stay behind me, Gabriel whispered. And if I say run, you run. Isaac nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. They both crouched in the shadows, watching as a figure entered the dome. It was tall, clad in sleek armor, with a helmet that obscured its features. The Hragath soldier carried a rifle, its weapon glowing faintly in the dim light. Gabriel and Isaac remained still, barely breathing. The soldier scanned the room, its visor glowing faintly. For a moment it seemed like it would leave. Then its gaze stopped, fixing on the console. Gabriel motioned silently for Isaac to back away. Isaac began to inch toward the rear of the dome, his movements slow and deliberate. The soldier's back was turned, its attention on the console. Now, Gabriel whispered. They moved quickly, slipping out of the dome's rear entrance before the soldier could notice. Once outside, they broke into a run, the open plains offering little cover but plenty of distance. Neither of them looked back. They ran until their lungs burned, until the outpost was just a distant blur on the horizon. When they finally stopped, Gabriel turned to Isaac. We're not alone out here. That was a scout? If there's one, there are more. Isaac nodded, still catching his breath. But we know their routes now. We can avoid them. Gabriel looked at the data chip in Isaac's hand. That's only part of it. We need to figure out their endgame. And for that, we need to keep moving. Together, they pressed on into the unknown. Isaac and Gabriel trudged onward, their path leading them through a landscape that felt increasingly foreign. The air was thinner here, the sky a sickly greenish hue. Scattered metallic debris glinted under the faded sunlight, relics of battles long past. "Looks like we're in the middle of a junkyard," Isaac said, stepping carefully over a rusted beam. "Any idea what this stuff used to be?" "Military hardware," Gabriel replied. He crouched down, brushing his fingers over a piece of warped metal. "Alien. Some of it Hraggith, some something else. It's been here a while." Isaac frowned. If this place is such a mess, why would anyone a Hraggith or otherwise be stationed nearby? "Cover," Gabriel said simply. "This field of scrap makes it harder to see who's moving through. It's a natural screen, and if they've got patrols here, it means they're protecting something." They walked on in silence for a while, their steps muffled by the soft ground. Despite the eerie quiet, Isaac felt the weight of the coordinates in his pocket, the data chip they'd pulled from the last outpost. The message encoded there wasn't just coordinates, it suggested a meeting point, a convergence of Hraggith forces. Whatever was at the end of their journey would change everything, he just didn't know how yet. Gabriel's voice broke the silence. "When we get there, we stick to the edges. No unnecessary risks. We gather what intel we can and pull out fast." "You don't think we'll find survivors?" Isaac asked. Gabriel shook his head. "Not likely. If the Hraggith are consolidating, it's not to shelter humans. It's to regroup and plan their next move." Isaac's shoulders slumped slightly. "So we're just recon." "For now," Gabriel said. "If we find something that can help, we'll figure out how to use it. But we're not here to pick a fight we can't win." As they navigated through the maze of wreckage, Isaac spotted a faint shimmer ahead. It was subtle, like a heat mirage, but something about it set his nerves on edge. "Gabriel, hold up," he said, gesturing toward the distortion. "What's that?" Gabriel squinted, his grip on his spear tightening. "Cloaking field. They're hiding something." "Think they know we're here?" Isaac asked. "Probably not," Gabriel said. "But if we get closer, they might." They crouched behind a rusted hull, peering out at the shimmering field. Beyond it, faint silhouettes moved, figures that looked almost human. Isaac's heart leapt. Could it be survivors? "Those don't look like Hraggith," he whispered. "Doesn't mean they're friendly," Gabriel said. "We need to know more." Isaac nodded, but his mind raced with questions. Who were they? Could they be allies? Or were they another threat waiting to reveal itself? He felt the weight of Gabriel's gaze on him and realized that, despite the man's hard exterior, he was watching out for both of them. "Stay here," Gabriel said suddenly. "I'm going to get a closer look." "Wait. What if they spot you?" Isaac asked, worry creeping into his voice. "They won't," Gabriel said. "I've done this before. Just keep an eye out. If anything happens, I need you to run." Isaac wanted to protest, but he knew it would be pointless. Gabriel was already moving, slipping through the shadows with a predator's grace. Isaac watched him go, feeling a mixture of admiration and unease. Alone now, he scanned the surroundings, his eyes darting to every piece of debris, every subtle movement. Minutes passed, each one stretching endlessly. Isaac's grip tightened on the wrench in his hand as he waited for Gabriel's return. The figures beyond the cloaking field moved sporadically, their shapes too indistinct to identify. His mind played through worst-case scenarios. What if Gabriel was caught? What if those figures were hostile and decided to hunt him next? Finally, Gabriel reappeared, moving swiftly and silently back to Isaac's position. His face was set in a grim expression. "Well?" Isaac asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Humans," Gabriel said. "But they're not from our colony. They've got scavenged gear, old Earth tech. Looks like they've been out here a long time." Isaac felt a spark of hope. "Other survivors? That's good, right?" "Maybe," Gabriel said, his tone cautious. "They're armed, and they seem organized. I didn't get close enough to see what they're doing, but they've got sentries posted. It's not a refugee camp. It's a fortified position." "What does that mean?" Isaac asked. "It means we approach carefully," Gabriel said. "If they're hostile, we back off. If they're friendly, we find out what they know. Either way, we don't charge in blind." Isaac nodded. "All right, what's the plan?" Gabriel thought for a moment. "We wait for nightfall. Then we try to make contact. Quietly, no sudden moves." As the day wore on, Isaac felt a strange sense of anticipation. For the first time since the attack, there was a chance, just a chance, that they might find allies. But the risk was high. He glanced at Gabriel, who sat sharpening the edge of his spear, his expression unreadable. "Gabriel," Isaac said after a long silence. "Thanks. For everything." Gabriel looked up, his green eyes steady. "Don't thank me yet. Let's see how this plays out first." Isaac managed a faint smile. Together, they prepared for the next step in their uncertain journey. Nightfall cloaked the landscape in shadows. Gabriel and Isaac crouched behind a jagged piece of wreckage, their eyes fixed on the faint glow coming from the fortified position ahead. The cloaking field that had shimmered in the daylight was now harder to discern, blending into the inky darkness. Gabriel adjusted his grip on the spear while Isaac checked the makeshift blade he'd attached to a length of pipe. "They'll have sentries," Gabriel whispered. "Probably more than the ones I saw earlier." Isaac nodded. "How do we get close without getting spotted?" "Slow and steady," Gabriel replied. "Stick to cover. Move when they're not looking. No sudden noises." "And if they see us?" Isaac asked, his voice barely audible. "Then we hope they're friendly," Gabriel said. He met Isaac's gaze. "But if they're not, we fight our way out." Isaac's grip tightened on his makeshift weapon. "Got it." Gabriel motioned for him to follow, and the two of them began to move. They stayed low, sliding from one piece of debris to the next. The faint glow grew brighter as they neared, and soon the silhouettes of the fortification's guards came into view. 2 sentries paced along the perimeter, their movements measured and deliberate. They carried rifles, human designs, though clearly modified with alien components. Gabriel signaled Isaac to stop. They huddled behind a chunk of twisted metal, their breaths barely audible. 2 guards, Gabriel murmured. "We wait until their patrols cross, then slip past." Isaac peered around the edge, watching the sentries carefully. They moved in a predictable pattern, their paths intersecting briefly before each guard turned back toward their respective post. Isaac nodded to Gabriel, indicating that he understood the timing. When the moment came, they moved quickly but silently, darting past the sentry's line of sight and into the deeper shadows. Gabriel motioned for Isaac to stop again, holding up a hand to indicate they were close. The entrance to the fortified area was just ahead, a makeshift gate cobbled together from scraps of metal and old earth alloy panels. It was guarded by a single figure, slumped in what looked like a half-sleep. Gabriel turned to Isaac and whispered, "We need a distraction." Isaac hesitated. "What kind?" "Anything that pulls the guard's attention away," Gabriel said. "Something small." "A noise." Isaac glanced around, then picked up a small piece of debris. He gestured toward a nearby cluster of wreckage and raised an eyebrow at Gabriel. The older man nodded. Isaac tossed the debris lightly. It clattered against the metal pile, and the guard straightened immediately, lifting his rifle. The sentry stepped away from the gate, moving toward the noise. Gabriel signaled Isaac to move, and together they slipped through the unguarded opening. Inside, the fortified area was a collection of makeshift shelters, scavenged equipment, and a single functioning power generator humming softly in the center. The people here, at least a dozen, moved with practiced efficiency, organizing supplies and checking weapons. They were armed and wary, but their faces were tired, their movements those of people who had seen too much. Gabriel and Isaac kept to the shadows, observing. They needed to understand who these people were before revealing themselves. Gabriel leaned close to Isaac. "We wait for the right moment. Let's see if we can overhear anything." The 2 men positioned themselves near a stack of crates and listened. A tall man with a weathered face and a scar running down one cheek was speaking quietly with another figure. "Supplies are low," the tall man said. "We need another run, but the Hragath patrols are thicker than ever. Last thing we need is to lose more people." The second figure, a younger man wearing a patched-up uniform, shook his head. "We can't risk it, Dane. If we lose the generator, it's over. We need to stay hidden and hold out." "Hold out for what?" Dane snapped. "No one's coming to save us. It's just us." Isaac and Gabriel exchanged a glance. This was their opening. Gabriel stepped out of the shadows, his spear lowered but still in hand. Isaac followed, his hands visible and open. The movement caught the attention of the nearby people, who immediately grabbed their weapons. Within seconds, both men were surrounded. "Wait," Gabriel said calmly. "We're not here to fight." Dane leveled a rifle at Gabriel. "Then what are you here for?" We've been out there, Gabriel said, nodding toward the ruined landscape behind them. We saw your sentries. We heard your generator. We wanted to know if there were others still alive. Why would you think that's your business? Dane asked coldly. Because if there are more survivors, Isaac interjected, his voice steady. We stand a better chance together. Dane's eyes narrowed, and he glanced toward the second man. After a long pause, he lowered his weapon slightly. You're not Hragath. That much is clear. But that doesn't mean we can trust you. We're not asking you to trust us right away, Gabriel said. But we've got information. We've been tracking their movements. We might have something you can use. Dane studied them for a moment longer before giving a curt nod. Fine. But if either of you steps out of line, you won't get a second chance. Isaac and Gabriel exchanged a look. It wasn't exactly a warm welcome, but it was a start. They'd made contact, and for now that was enough. Dane led them into the heart of the camp. The fortified area was more organized than Isaac had expected. Scattered shelters made from repurposed plating and cargo containers formed a rough circle around a central fire pit. A few men and women worked quietly, sorting through salvaged supplies. The generator hummed softly in the background, its steady vibration the only hint of technology among the ruins. Sit, Dane said, gesturing to an overturned crate. His tone was flat, but not hostile. If you've got something useful to say, now's the time. Gabriel lowered himself onto the crate, leaning his spear against his leg. Isaac stood beside him, shifting nervously. He'd never been much of a negotiator. Gabriel had always taken the lead on that front. We found a relay station a few days back, Gabriel began. Old, damaged, but still functional. It gave us these coordinates. Dane crossed his arms. So you came all this way just to see what we've got? We came to find out if anyone else was alive, Isaac said, his voice steadying. And if they are, to figure out if we can help each other. Dane didn't respond right away. He glanced at his second-in-command, the younger man in the patched uniform. The two exchanged a brief look before Dane spoke again. You've seen Hragath patrols? Dane asked. How close? Gabriel nodded. Close enough. They're moving through the debris fields north of here. We've been tracking their patterns. Looks like they're consolidating. Consolidating for what? The younger man interjected. That's what we're trying to figure out, Gabriel replied. But we think they're planning something. And if we don't get ahead of it, they'll find camps like this one. Dane leaned back against a support beam. And you think you can help us with that? Depends, Gabriel said. You've got more people, more supplies. We've got intel. If we share what we know, we might be able to get a clearer picture of what they're up to and maybe figure out how to stop them. One of the other camp members, a middle-aged woman sorting medical supplies nearby, chimed in. How do we know you're not leading them here? You show up out of nowhere, claiming you have information, but what if you're just bait? Gabriel's gaze remained steady. We took a big risk coming here. If we wanted to harm you, we wouldn't have. Hing without permission. You earn trust here. You don't just get it handed to you. Fair enough, Gabriel said. We'll pull our weight. Dane's second-in-command nodded. I'll show them where they can stay. Over the next few days, Isaac and Gabriel integrated cautiously into the camp. Gabriel worked closely with Dane and his leadership team, sharing what he knew about the Hragath patrol routes and the relay station's data. Isaac focused on the camp's technical needs, repairing damaged equipment and helping stabilize the aging generator. You're good with this stuff, the young second-in-command Mark said as he watched Isaac rewire a communication console. Used to be my job, Isaac said, not looking up from his work. Maintenance tech for the city's infrastructure. Never thought I'd be doing it under these circumstances. Mark chuckled. None of us thought we'd end up here. Isaac finished the connection and stepped back as the console powered on. There. Should hold for a while at least. Not bad, Mark said. If you keep this up, people might actually start trusting you. Isaac smiled faintly. That'd be nice. Meanwhile, Gabriel spent most of his time in the command shelter. He and Dane pored over maps, schematics, and the limited data they had on Hragath movements. They argued often. Dane was cautious to the point of paranoia, while Gabriel pushed for more decisive action. If we don't start preparing a defense, we'll be sitting ducks, Gabriel said during one particularly heated discussion. And if we rush into something without all the facts, we'll be dead anyway. Dane shot back. Isaac, who had stopped by to drop off a repaired device, hesitated in the doorway. "What's going on?" "Same argument, different day," Mark said from his seat in the corner. "Dane wants to keep a low profile. Gabriel wants to take the fight to the Hragath." "I never said we charge in guns blazing," Gabriel said, his voice firm. "But we need to be ready. If they come this way, we can't just hide." "Then you better hope your intel is right," Dane said. He leaned heavily on the table, looking more tired than angry. "Because if it's not, this whole camp is finished." Isaac cleared his throat. "The relay station's data is solid. I've seen the patterns myself. If we keep monitoring their movements, we can stay one step ahead." Dane's gaze softened slightly. "All right, but we move carefully. No heroics." Gabriel and Isaac exchanged a glance. They knew it wasn't a perfect plan, but it was better than doing nothing. Together they had a chance, a slim one, to survive what was coming.